All right, so we're going to start out with Rich in Virginia, giving us the financial report. And this is the financial report that he sent for 2013. And if we don't have his picture up right now because we have the financial report up, but we'll let him go over it with us. You do that. All right, go ahead, Rich.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Appreciate the opportunity to Skype in and give this financial report. I understand the conference is going great. My wife has gone to the live streaming part of it during the week, and that works out really good. Probably the financial report is not the most exciting part of the conference, so I'll keep it brief. But what I thought I would do is, because the conference is really on a 2-year, our financials are kind of on a 2-year cycle where all of the activities tend to be the second year where people are making a lot of donations and we're spending a lot of money on expenses for the conference and whatnot. But so I'll talk about 2013 as a year and then what's happened so far in 2014. But 2014 it is kind of incomplete because conference is not over. There's a lot of activity that hasn't been booked yet. So at any rate, for 2013, we came into the year with $15,287, and during the course of 2013, I categorized our income in 4 or 5 different categories that are important to us. One being general donations, we had $16,000 of that now, and then general fundraisers, $6,600 of that. A lot of the fundraising for this conference actually took place in 2014, not 2013. As far as detail on the fundraisers go, I don't have who raised what funds, but we do have the newsletter where we're now getting a lot of good visibility for who held fundraisers and how much they raised. So I would look at that if you want more detail on the fundraisers themselves. Now the big activity this year, again, speaking of 2013, was back in, I guess it was November, where we got involved with helping Dr. Grossfeld with his major fundraiser that he holds, and this is the How I Met Your Mother TV show cast. Lindsay may have talked about it in the conference already, but it's a very big fundraiser that he holds, and we ran the money through our accounts this year. We helped him with a website that gathered the donations where people make credit card payments and whatnot, and so in 2013 we raised or came to our books $107,000. Now in total, his fundraiser raised over $140,000, I think $141,000 after fees and expenses and that sort of thing. So again, 2013, $107,000 was on the books. More came in 2014, and that's why we have the income that we have this year, which is unusually high. On the expense side, 11Q virtually, for all the fundraising activities that go on, the conference expenses really doesn't have any administrative costs to speak of. You'll see that the wine donations, that was something that was related to How I Met Your Mother, and to expense offsetting some of the income there. Then we have site fees, we had some bank fees for, again, to accept credit cards for the How I Met Your Mother fundraiser, and so we had about $37.67 in expenses, and for the year, our income statement shows $130,000, $160 of income. Add that to the $15,000 we started the year at, and we have $145,000 in the bank at the end of the year, which ties to the tax return that I filed. And as a matter of fact, this year, because of the amount of funds that we took in, we had to file the next level up tax return for nonprofits. That's a 990 N postcard. It's a 990 EZ form. A little more complicated. One of the moms actually helped me with, who's an accountant, with some of those filings because it's unusual and different for us to do. If you're interested, basically, if you have to do $50,000 a year for 3 years, you have to file the next level up. We did it all in 1 year. So that's the income statement. On the balance sheet side, our balance sheet consists of the money we have in the bank. We don't have any property, we don't have any cars. Right, Lindsay?
Right.
So it's checking account, savings account, and then the big, we set up a separate checking account for Dr. Grossfield's fundraiser so we could segregate the money and know how much we had to turn around and make a donation back to the University of California, San Diego, eventually. Now, that gave us $145,000 in assets for 2013, and what I did was I put on the liability side the $107,000 that we took in for How I Met Your Mother, because a liability is something that you owe or something that you expect to owe, and although it's not technically a bill, our intention is to flow that money back into Dr. Grossfield's research. So we have that as a liability. And it kind of clarifies the picture for 11Q. At the bottom line, in total electric, you see $30,420. That essentially is the funds after you scrub out the whole How I Met Your Mother fundraiser that 11Q organization has to work with. Going into the 2014 year where the conference is being held. So it's a pretty good war chest. Our bank balance yesterday I checked it, and we have $46,525 in the bank right now, and that essentially reflects about $10,000 information to the fundraisers that we got sent off the financial statement with the end of 2013. So I guess you could say that we're going into the conference before expenses with a balance of $46,000, which might be an all-time record. There's a lot of great fundraising, a lot of great donations, aside from the How I Met Your Mother fundraiser. And that is the report. Now, are there any questions from anybody about that?
I guess one thing I'd like to point out is that you'll notice in the balance sheet that there are no administrative expenses, which means that everything that Lindsay does, everything that Jessica does, everything that the board does, and Rich, is donated time. So even the conference expenses that our family pays, we pay for our hotel, we pay for our own food, we don't expense any of that back to the organization. So everything is completely donated time, donated effort. So I just kind of selfishly want to recognize Lindsay for all that she does. And Jessica and Rich and the rest of the board for all that they do to put this on. We could not do this without Paul, Lindsay, and Jessica and all that they do. And one more time.
Are there any questions for Rich?
I'm wondering what...
Oh, wait, you have to say it. Well, Curtis will repeat it.
Come on up here.
Oh yeah, you have to talk to me.
He won't hear you unless you talk that way.
Rich, we got someone coming up to ask a question.
Hi, Rich. I'm just wondering, and this might not be a question for you, but how are the donations captured when they go through the UCSD website? I'm just wondering if, just in terms of getting thank yous out to donors, how that would work. Okay, and Paul says he might be able to answer that.
Right, yeah, that's not coming to our folks, so I couldn't answer that necessarily.
Okay.
You can have that microphone.
Oh, okay. I'm going to throw it away.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question was how are donations captured when it goes through UCSD? So let me give you just a couple of minutes to explain sort of the background and history. So there are multiple ways that people can donate where the money goes directly to my research. And I won't belabor some of the complicated political issues that have led to where we are now, but there are basically two ways. So if John Smith wants to make $1 million donation tomorrow, which we're hoping, the easiest way is we now have a website for my lab, which also includes a link for direct giving through UCSD. And through that mechanism, 94% of your money goes directly to the research into a specific account that I use to pay the bills to run my lab, and really to pay my people in my lab and whatnot. So that's one way that anybody at any time can just go to my lab's website, which you should actually get up on the 11Q website. So that is called littleheartsbighopes.org. We should make a point, and then it's actually very user-friendly. So you can pay by check, by cash, and they have, as you can imagine, they really want to make it easy for you. So if you want to have money taken out of your paycheck every month to donate, so that's one way. So that's kind of the conventional way that we've been doing things. When we have specific events as a fundraising event, like How I Met Your Mother, because of complicated political issues that I don't want to get into right now, I'll be happy to discuss offline. We funnel that money instead of directly to UCSD. We funnel it directly into a research account now that Rich has set up through 11Q. And by the way, Rich, if hopefully you're still listening, I told everyone before we came on, but I want everyone again to know what an incredible job you have done to help facilitate all of this. And before I go on, how about a round of applause? I don't even know why the guy still even talks to me, because I am driven and crazy with all my requests to navigate all this stuff. So what happens then is for a single event, like the How I Met Your Mother event, people make their check out to, or credit card payment to the 11Q group. That's specifically designated, if you wish it to be, specifically then designated for my research. And so in that case, Rich pools all that money into one designated account, and then he writes essentially a single check over to UCSD. So in terms of the mechanism of the thank you letters, and the tax, credits, when you make a direct donation to UCSD generates that letter, basically on my behalf. That's through their giving department. When it goes through 11Q, and Rich, correct me if I'm wrong, I've worked with Rich to generate sort of a combined personal thank you letter for me that also includes the tax acknowledgement.
Okay. Yeah, we try to make sure that everyone gets the acknowledgement of the donation. And we actually, if it's over $250, we have to do that. Also put a statement in there that there was no goods or services received for it, so the person can actually take the entire amount as a tax deduction.
Any other questions for Rich? Okay, Rich is going to kind of stay on.
Right.
And then we're going to go on with, so he can chime in, and we're going to go on with a little bit more of the business meeting. One thing that I did want to...
Let me get to
sorry.
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Is there a difference? You said 94% goes straight. When you do it either way,
Oh,
94% goes. Is that the same either way it's donated?
Yes.
94% goes with both?
yes.
And that's the big reason why I've done it the way I have, to absolutely ensure that there is no additional overhead. The only exception to that is when people pay by some of these credit card companies, which I've kind of been a little bit resistant to, PayPal, they have their own overhead.
So they take a percentage.
Right. And sometimes we had to do that just to make it even possible at all. I don't like the idea of supporting credit card companies myself. I think they're doing well.
And then it was mentioned, people get to write off 100%. That's for both also.
No.
No.
Well, they get to, sorry.
Yes.
They get to write off 100%, but like Paul said, 94% of donated to CSD, there's a 6% charge of overhead.
Okay, but the person gets to donate. Okay.
Unless it's like an event at a dinner or something, then you have to subtract, whatever that per.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll kind of talk about that a little bit in the fundraising section too, the little ins and outs of that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right, and then just finance related, because we haven't, like you said, we haven't completed 2014. Most of our conference expenses have not actually hit the bank account yet. So I just wanted to give you an update of what the budget was for the conference this year. It's most likely going to come out around $27,000 for the conference. That's about $10,000 more than last time, but we raised more money, so we were able to help pay for some hotel rooms for some of the people coming, some of the doctors and researchers coming from out of town. Pay for some space for the so that we could have the neurocognitive and autism studies here on site, and then we were able to offer a few more scholarships this year. So granted, we haven't got everything hasn't been billed to us yet, but it should come out probably right around $27,000 for the conference. Does anyone have any questions about that? All right. Okay, so let's go into conference feedback. Now, I know we're not totally done with the conference yet, but we'd like to talk about conferences, where we go from here, and what you might like, what you don't like, what we should change for next time. Are there any additional topics that you'd like to see covered that we haven't covered? And yeah, come on. And Paul's going to, do you want to talk a little bit about the conference format?
Yeah.
Okay.
So one thing that we really take seriously is to get your feedback. And so we actually haven't talked about this, but I think what I would like to propose is after the conference, when you've had a little bit of time to chill and decompress after this onslaught of information, we'd like to send out an email questionnaire to all of you.
I have one for today, too.
Oh.
I have a format. I have a thing that I'm going to pass out today, too.
And so what I actually personally prefer to do is, rather than do it anonymous, because sometimes that gives people the opportunity to take some pop shots or whatever, but we really value constructive criticism. And so I would strongly prefer if people are willing to identify themselves when they make these comments, because it gives me the opportunity to follow up with you to get more information to incorporate those changes, hopefully, for future conferences. And we've done that in the past. I think for many of you who have been to previous conferences, you'll see how things have evolved, hopefully for the better. But we always want to make it better for the next conference, and I can't do that. We can't do that without your feedback. And so, for me, I again take that really seriously. As long as the feedback is constructive, we're always open to making changes, because the conference at the end of the day is all about you guys. So we want to make you happy. If you're happy, we're happy, right? I think. So, speaking a little more specifically about the format of the conference, Lindsay and I decided we're going to have the next one in 10 years. We just can't do it anymore. Not quite. But I think each time, I do like to step back myself and reassess and to, think about whether we should continue to do things the same way we are. And obviously, for example, with the internet, these days, virtually everyone has pretty good access to the internet. Should we continue to do things the way we've done them? One thing that comes to mind is every 2 years, maybe not even that necessary in terms of having this kind of a format with this intense of a schedule. And I'm just throwing these ideas out here. I don't know even how I feel at this point. I think I need some time to kind of decompress a little bit. I mean, it is an extraordinary amount of work, and I think as you've heard Lindsay and me already say, it's probably been more work this time than any other previous conference. But again, I think in a lot of ways it's the best conference we've ever had. So one thing I've been thinking about as an alternative maybe to the current format is maybe we have this kind of a conference every 4 years, and in between maybe we have regional conferences which are more geared towards the breakout sessions, family support type things. And of course, in the interim, the reason why I would even consider that possibility is because of the internet and the accessibility that people have. We can always continue to keep people updated through newsletters, the social media and whatnot, the latest medical and scientific advances. So these are just things I'm kind of throwing out there. I would love to hear people's feedback right now if you have any thoughts about what you would like for future.
Once a year would be great.
Then you get your rear end here and plan the damn thing.
That's what I would like to know is what could we do as conference attendees to help share more of the burden, for lack of a better word. I mean,
Do you want to speak to that?
Like that's something that you both have shared, and I would like to see this happen every other year. I mean, I know our family looks forward to it, but I don't think it's fair that this amount of responsibility rests on both of your shoulders, and I'm wondering, are there things that we could do to lighten your load so that we could keep it as something that we're coming together for every other year? Speaking from someone who does not have a high percentage of other families in her region.
Technology is amazing, right? So this has been great, and I'm just thinking there may be some other ways we can exploit the ability to do more online collaboration, and not necessarily even every 2 years at the conference. I'm just wondering, like, throughout the year, if we can plan some things where we can get online and talk. One thought I had was our pediatricians have probably never spoken to one another. Could we invite them to some sort of a session with you where they could ask questions and, you know, we might find a topic that's common. Just, I think we can kind of brainstorm a little bit on how to leverage technology and the ability to do more with online collaboration to help facilitate this kind of conversation more frequently, so it's not just every 2 years. Not to add more burden.
Yeah, you just added more work to our plate.
And then then conferences maybe are a little bit less work because we can do some more of that in an online kind of collaborative way. If that makes any sense.
So yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying is kind of what I've been thinking, you know, when you have the formal presentations that are available online, maybe those can substitute for having to have those presented live every 2 years.
Yeah, I think, you know, for me, I enjoy the presentations, the opportunity to ask questions, like the panel yesterday is huge for me because it allows me to take what they're saying and kind of translate it to my personal situation. How can I do things differently and be more effective with Sydney? So, if, you know, even if it's in an online kind of way, I think that would be very useful just to have more opportunities to collaborate and talk.
Did people, I'm just curious, I hope all of you got the, I prepared kind of a little overview, almost like bullet points for each of the talks. Some were more detailed than others. Hopefully all of you got those. That was one suggestion that was made last time. Has that been useful to people? Because I mean, kind of following up with your suggestion, what we could do is make the conference, in terms of all these medical things, more of a panel discussion format. And as a prelude to that, to have the more, you know, like the didactic sort of lecture material type stuff out there available on the internet, so people hopefully would educate themselves to some extent and then come armed with questions for a panel discussion kind of format, which would actually cut down the duration of the conference considerably, I think.
Yeah.
You've been to the European conferences and of course here, and I don't remember if they're yearly or biannual, but I was talking to Nigel about it because I really wanted to go this March and couldn't make it. But he was saying, you know, that the way he described it was, yes, they have a lot of medical information, but not as intense as here, and they interact more with family workshops the way we have our breakout sessions. But since you have attended both, is there a preference that you see or more success that you see in either one?
I think, and Nigel, I hope you'll chime in on this too. My take is that I think what's happened over the years is we've always had a much more kind of rigorous presentation in terms of the medical issues, and early on it was far weighted almost exclusively to the medical talks with very little breakout sessions. I think we've actually balanced that better now, so I think their conference is only, I think it's a 2-day conference, right? So ours is a 4-day conference, 3 days. So I think the biggest difference is I think we've reached almost a similar amount of breakout sessions and family interactions as they do, but what makes our conference so much longer is the fact that we have many more medical sessions and some of the other family support type activities. And I think, each one serves a great purpose. I think they're both really, well, I'm biased, but I think they're both great conferences. One of the things that I do see, I think a little more with the European conference is, I think a higher percentage of the families that attend are repeat attendees. So there's really, I don't know how to say it, maybe it's a little more of a family gathering type atmosphere, which has its great merits. I think they both serve wonderful functions. That's just my own thinking. Nigel, what do you have to add?
I think there's almost a cultural difference between Europe and America. And some of that comes from your bias, for obviously being from the medical side. But there's a place for both elements, i.e. the pure medical and technical issues and the family support issues. So I think that's why the structures are a bit different. For me, I think the meeting side is more important, obviously, as only 27 and there hardly any medical issues anyway. But one thing that surprised us this year in the European conference was that we had 7 new families, and that's something you always have to remember, that you've got the old, you get the old stagers like us who just go because we like going and we love San Diego. But you've also got new families who are likely were 26 years ago and who know nothing. And it's trying to find a balance between those two things and also keep the old stages up to date with the new developments. And whilst the internet is a wonderful thing, and this might be an age thing for me, there's nothing like hearing it from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And the point about being able to raise questions when something just comes into your mind is really powerful, and you can't do that, I don't think, without human interaction. As I say, that might be partially my age, I don't know. So I think the main point, though, to raise at a meeting like this is that the whole thing revolves around 2 or 3 committed people. It's the same in Europe, so it's no different here. Without Lindsay, Jessica, Tim, and the other dedicated people, there wouldn't be a conference. And it's all right being excited to do like this, but actually being able to deliver, and that's the key point, deliver the function of the conference is the key thing, and it's probably even harder. Well, we have differences in Europe because of language differences. I think we had six different languages being spoken at the conference this year, which is a complication we don't have here. But deliverability is the whole thing, and trying to spread the load is a great idea, but practically is very difficult. So unless there are 4 more people who can lend a hand and do, particularly for Paul doing all the work on his own, and I guess they have to be locally in San Diego, that's where the help's got to come, I think. That's the critical thing. And obviously, if delegation is a difficult thing when you're in a position like this. I know I'm like that with the Q conference in Europe. And I guess Paul and I are the same in that respect. You think, I'll just do it myself. And you know it's done right then.
Well, some things are just hard to delegate because by the time you finish delegating it, you could have done it yourself easier. I mean, so it's sort of a catch-22, and I don't mean to sound like a whiner, although I am.
I think for sure is that you get an attitude, and it happens a lot in England, so I don't, this isn't a global thing, but people say they should do this. And it's a laudable thought, and they want to do it done for the right reason, but the question is, well, who's they? Yeah. And they is the 3 people we've been talking about. And it's not their main role in life to put the conference on, and that's something else I think. I even figured that when I'm here. And it's a massive task to put something like this on.
It's a year of planning.
Yeah.
a year of work.
Just one other thing, just to sort of back up what Rich and the others are doing, the conference cost in Europe was almost exactly the same as the cost here.
That's interesting.
Your money is being well spent.
I'm cheap.
Very well.
Ready? Go ahead.
Well, I think Jessica had.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Jessica.
I just wanted to say, I do love having it every other year, and I know I have a little more insight, than other people about how much work is going into it, and so I do say that kind of a little guarded, that I know how much time and effort is spent on this, blood, sweat, and tears. I like learning in person. I took an online course once in college and hated it because I felt like I can read a book, but I like hearing the professor talk, I like being able to ask questions, and sometimes hearing someone else's question that I didn't think of. Oh yeah, I didn't, that's something I don't understand either. So I like the idea of the smaller regional, because I also love the camaraderie and the family aspect, but it is also just personally a little disappointing to me sometimes to see the attendance here, when I know that there are 40 families and then there are 15 representatives in here. And I'm like, well, where is everybody? We came all the way here. How come you're not here at the conference, even right now?
Well, I think Lindsay and I feel the same way. I think, it is a little frustrating, to be honest,
and this is my fourth conference, so there's some things that I've heard before, but it's a good refresher, in my opinion, to hear it again. And I think, sometimes there's something new, obviously, that I didn't know last time, and we can't make people show up to the workshops, but when I think about the time spent, all of the presenters spend their personal time. They have no connection whatsoever to our organization. They're donating their time and their resources to put together this presentation that is specific to 11Q. And they come, and then there's not, too many people out here. That's embarrassing for me as part of our board, that, I want us to put our best face forward, that, we're here because we all want to learn this information. Again, I know there's no way to force people to come, but I think it would be amazing if we could have more attendance at the workshops, even if it might not be your most important thing, because this is something we do every other year. It's not something that you can, just have at any point, and just knowing the time and the effort and the work that goes into the preparation. I just want to see, more faces.
Yeah, and I do struggle with that. Sometimes it is a little upsetting to me when I've invited someone to come from across the country and there are 15 people in the room when they're getting ready to start their talk. It's kind of embarrassing, actually.
Yeah.
And it's a little upsetting to me because I don't think it reflects positively on the group when that happens. And so, when you want to plan a future conference, it's a little bit, I'm a little reticent sometimes when I realize that that's what it might amount to when you're asking someone to make such a big sacrifice.
Especially because we're not paying their way.
Right, in most cases,
They're paying their way and everything, and we can't as an organization afford that. So we're asking them, make a presentation, tailor it to 11Q,
Right.
fly across the country, pay for your own meals.
Give up time from your family.
And then, and then in Chess, they can have a newborn.
Yes, last time, yeah.
So, and then only 15 people show up, was that worth your time? So
Right.
that's something that I feel needs to be put out there to people, is this worth it to you?
Well, and that's what kind of makes me raise the issue.
Yeah.
Should we keep doing this?
I think it's worth it.
Listen, by the way, I love all of you in here. This is not a schooling session. I love to see you every 2 years. I wish all of you lived in San Diego, actually. But a commune. We've talked about an 11Q San Diego commune, right?
In response to that, I agree with you, and I can't stress enough the, I understand, the 15 people in the conference here, but, have we taken account into how many families this information has touched via live stream? That's something that we didn't have before, but they may have been present.
We have been tracking that. And that actually brings up another really important point that I did want to bring up. Lindsay, what's the membership now of 11Q?
Well, it's kind
How
of
many
hard to say
families,
because,
roughly?
like, online, we probably, like, on our Facebook, we probably have like 400 members, but like on our
450, it's
450 on the Facebook page. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not like
There are 400
mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, for all the same person, but like on our mailing list, we probably have, or on our email list, we probably have about 200, 250.
All right, so let's do some simple math here. Hang on to that point because we'll come right back to it. So I estimate there's somewhere between 500, probably closer to 1,000 11Q families or whatever in the United States. And then you said there were about 250 to 300?
Yeah.
And out of that 300, we got about 42 families that formally registered for this conference. And I would say on average, for any session, we probably have maybe half that number of families for any individual talk. And then with the live stream, we're capturing on average, what's the average number of viewers per talk? 20, 15?
20 is the highest. Yesterday, the average was about 6 people. Tuesday, the average was about 15.
Okay, so really what that means is that for any talk, on average, between people here and people viewing live stream, we're probably capturing about 30 families from around the whole world.
That you're recording it so that other people can watch it later as well.
Yes.
In time, if you will, for when
Yeah.
these compartmentalized.
Right, and that, not to trivialize that, because, right.
Well, and also too, when you did, hands up at the family dinner, when more people had actually showed up by the evening time, in respect to all the newbies that came, I mean, I know when I had my first one, when I met you the first time and got all that information, it was life-changing. And when I met all this, it was literally life-changing. And so I can't help but think or to express that just whatever that number of the newbies were, what they left with or what they leave with, and it's a beginning of something for them. So I'm on too to say that I appreciate everything that you guys do just to make this 4-day time, so important. And I just can't, I don't know if you could put a price on that, of what they leave with, just knowing that there are other people out there and that you're available and all the information that you help to provide. The appreciation may not show on a daily basis.
Well, it certainly shows from you guys. That's definitely
a life-changing situation once you get it. So I just wanted to express, the appreciation for that. And,
Thank you.
Even on their behalf, because I know how it felt.
Thank you. I think it's just something to consider, the fact that probably we're only capturing, for lack of a better term, about maybe 10% of all the families at this conference. The question is there anything we can do differently to maybe improve that? I don't know.
Or to help you guys, and I understand, it's hard to, by the time you give out the instruction,
One of the issues that we've had, not only this time, I thought it would be taken care of because we brought somebody, a caretaker with us, but she ended up, well, it doesn't matter. But we've had some issues, just like my daughter's being afraid to go to the child care. It's very noisy, it's not something she's used to, and she has not adjusted very well to it. We're going to bring her back today, we took a break yesterday, but Dan's definitely made it so that we've missed more than we would like to, absolutely. But we do take comfort in knowing that we can go back.
Sure.
I'm not sure when it'll be on, but to know that we can watch it. In the past conference, I watched so many of those again and then again and then again, so I thought, I think I'm going to watch it. And it really has been life-changing. Last time, Dr. Harris's talked because of that. He was not on antibiotics for a year and a half. He hasn't been in the hospital since. And so, I mean, truly life-changing.
And maybe just to even hear one story makes the whole conference worthwhile. I mean, it makes me want to say that too, so that's a great...
And then on top of that, also my concern of jumping to a larger gap between conferences is the research. I'm not sure, I know you have a lot of samples, but we also have been really are glad to be able to be involved in Sarah and Natasha's research as well. And I would love to see that continue.
Just to add real quick, I spoke with Ken Paris and Virgil, and they were both interested in potentially including our kids in studies as well. So I just think there's a lot of potential for future research with our children. And I'd like
like Beth, because of speaking with Marty Stein and Ken Paris, we didn't have significant outcomes with the immunology, but they were able to directly refer us to specialists in Seattle in ways that I don't think we would have if we had not had that direct interaction. And then we had another 11Q family at the hospital who had been here before. And now Kimlani is working with a neurodevelopmentalist directly referred to a colleague of Marty Stein. So, I mean, for us, that's been incredibly impactful, and I don't think that could have happened over the internet.
And I just want to say, I'm at Tara. I don't know how many people receive scholarships. I received a scholarship. And to me, that's huge. And I am ashamed if anybody that isn't here that got a scholarship, other than if they had an issue with their child. I don't know how you can get a scholarship and not show up for every single event, because it is only every 2 years. And I don't know, I do remember in the scholarship reading, you have to attend 80%. I went, why should we have to be told that? I should get every one. I mean, it doesn't matter how tired I am, which I have not been tired. I'm Zooming. But
You are an amazing person, by the way.
maybe don't give me my scholarship until the last day. And if I miss 3 days of the scholarship, I've got to take my own way. It's my choice. That's why we give choices to our children. Okay, you.
Jessica, Jessica, do you want to lead a session on that? Well, that's very touching. Thank you.
I had a question in regards to the percentage of people that come to these conferences. We're kind of talking around all ourselves. The questionnaires that you're sending out, is there a way to contact the families that aren't coming and maybe get some more feedback on why they're not?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Well, I mean, I think Lindsay can pretty easily send out a bulk emailing, right, to all the members of the group, so that should be a slam dunk. Is that way? Maybe, you know what would be good? Instead of it coming from me or Lindsay, I think it would be great to have you guys compose the letter.
On Facebook?
There you go.
No, I think it should be an email, because it's too easy to dismiss or lose things on Facebook, I think.
But we have a lot more context on Facebook than we do on email, so.
Okay, well, both. Capture,
Yeah.
cast a wide net, but I think, one of the things I was thinking, if there are really 250 families, then I totally realize and accept the fact that for many people, the financial burden is just too much. And that brings up another issue, potentially getting extramural funding to support that in the future. But I would have to assume that if those people are only not coming because of financial constraints, then I would have assumed that they would be watching this by the live stream. And I don't think that's really been the case, because if we're only getting 5 to 10 people at any one time.
Well, this takes place during the workday, so keep that into.
No, I understand that, but I'm not hearing in most cases, correct me if I'm wrong, in most cases the answer that I've gotten back from people why they can't attend is not because they don't have the time to take off from work, it's because of the financial constraints. And I realize to take 5 days off of work is huge, and that,
Do it. We just planned 2 years.
well, and it does take planning, but I mean, you prioritize things, and with enough time, you will make it a priority if it's that important to you. But
Watching from Australia.
In the middle of the night.
yeah, that is amazing. So,
I agree. It's a priority.
so I'm a little disappointed that if it is simply a matter of finances, I really would have expected more people watching on the live stream. That's just my take. What do you think?
Yeah, but I do think, I do agree, but I think a lot of people, when they know that the recordings are available, then they're like, okay, I'm not going, I won't take work off, and I'll watch them later, just because they don't have to take work off now, and so they'll watch them later. Like, for example, some people emailed me questions because they knew that they couldn't have work off,
Right.
but they wanted their questions answered.
So here's one thing, I don't know if we can track this, Tim. Let's say if for any session it's 10 people watching by the live stream, over the 20 sessions, do we know if it's the same 10 people for each session, or is it 10 different people each time, which means there could have been 200 different people watching, or something in between, probably?
There's a few that are consistently watching, but there's other people that chime in that, that they're,
Intermittently.
yeah, I mean, they're some that you only see once or twice.
And they may be chiming in after, coming in after work, or
Yeah.
when they
Right.
have a free moment.
Time constraints or time zones or.
Is there a hit track, like, Facebook, how many likes, how many comments?
Yes.
How many, even after, like, how many views did you guys have after the last conference? All those shows, YouTube shows.
Yeah, we didn't check them last time, but,
You just did last time.
I was just gonna say, one of the other things is how many of them are family members, not just, how many of them are family members of families that are represented here, because I know my mom's been on two or three times, so.
I just.
Double dipping.
I just want to support some of the things that have already been said. I mean, when I'm at work, I have opportunities to take conferences online, but it's just not the same. So my supervisor actually encourages us to physically go to the conferences because a lot of it is the networking. But even that's just work related, there's a certain level to it. This conference really is personal. It is so deep and it's something that you walk away with. It's just so valuable.
My wife left, so later when you see her, could you just remind her how rude it was?
No, that's your job.
You could have it the conference where Tim lives in February, and then no one would ever leave the hotel.
No one might ever come to it.
I'm wondering, and if you, it's probably a two-part question. It is important, I think, that all of us let you know individually how important you have been. You called us out of the blue. I don't know how you found us. You said your kid has a hole in his heart. We didn't, never checked out, and lo and behold, we went to the cardiologist, and he said, you betcha. And so you do need to know that, and I think that life-changing piece that you offer to people is probably balanced out maybe politically within your work situation where this is not a well-funded research project. If you're working on, autism, I'll use another, just autism, which a lot of NIH money is going to. There are certain categories of research that your university would probably be thrilled.
Right. This isn't the sexiest thing to the university, probably. Although, yes and no. I mean, I can tell you that certainly a lot of my more peer-to-peer type colleagues completely appreciate what we do here. The leadership doesn't really, unless they can, the higher leadership.
But contextually, I think families need to understand those pressures, because I don't think often people, because you're the Pied Piper, and I will use that, your power of persuasion gets people to come here who are researchers. I mean, you found them. It was really interesting. I talked to several of them, and it's been your personality and your drive and your passion around our kids and what you've learned and how you've gone on your own journey that has made them say, this is pretty cool. I'm going to learn more about this, and that's.
Well, I'm really a mouthpiece for you guys. So, thank you.
But I'm wondering, maybe it's. I do think that as your committee, and another round of applause also for the folks that particularly appreciate. I think we have to lay the law down, folks. These are our expectations. If you come here, we have a zoo, we have a ballpark. Come in a day early, stay a day later, stay 2 days later. But when you're here, you have to let them know otherwise it goes away.
This is work.
And
This
it
is
is.
our job.
Yeah,
This is what we're here to learn. This is this is our job, for our living.
And that's a tough balance, because you don't want to come out with a sort of punitive, you know.
I think that the balance, though, Paul, is people need to know that what you're finding is directly correlating to how their kid's trajectory of success is going to find them. And that is, when you put it into the real-life terms of what matters for your child,
Right.
it helps people really refocus. And I think that people probably do say, let's go to the zoo, because it's...
Well, I want people to enjoy this incredible... I was actually hoping to have the mayor of San Diego come here to give a little introductory remark. Unfortunately, he had a conflict. I mean, they were really generous. The new mayor, not the one that's in jail right now. But
That's a compliment.
in all... But you know what? I really appreciate what you're saying, and you know what? There's no greater spokesperson to promote that message than you, not me. It means much more, I think, to a new family, because, you know, I'm coming at it with a slightly different angle, but thank you.
And so, from the organizer's point of view, you have to pick on us. Tell us what you need.
Well, and I think one thought that I had is like down on my list, but one thought that I had for increasing attendance would be for all of us who have been here to go online, to go on the Facebook page and share your experience. Share like what you learned, share how it changed your life. And then these, you know, some people who may not even consider it as an option to go, that think they may not be interested, maybe sparked and be like, okay, maybe this is something that I do need to look into doing. So.
Just a couple of thoughts to build on some of the things that have been said. One idea might be to take, over the course of the week, have some identified blocks of time for free time for families to go do things. And I know that will cut down on the amount of sessions that we can have, but it might be a way to say, okay, you come to the sessions during this time, but we've set aside some time for you to go to the zoo on Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, these research conferences, like in Colorado, they have ski conferences, so you have, no, really, sessions in the morning and you ski in the afternoon. I mean, we could...
Something like that, because I think most families aren't going to San Diego all that often.
No, well, we want people to, I mean, personally, I love living in San Diego, and I love to kind of show it off to you guys because it's such a great place, so I mean...
That's just one...
Yeah, I think that's a really good...
idea. That's something we could do. And I had another idea, of course, can't do right now, so, anyway.
Can I just piggyback on that and kind of in light of what Beth said, is that as amazing as the child care providers some of our kids have some sensory and addiction issues, and even my typical child in there is kind of going, this is a little overwhelming, and I think that having some of those breaks would mean that it would pull us as parents away a little bit less, because any presence that you have not had from Dean and I in here is not been because we haven't wanted to be here. You know, it's just that we're here for our children. And
sure.
Sometimes that means we have to prioritize them in this case. And then just a quick question is, I'm wondering how much we need to think about, and of course I know this has been on your minds, but when we take $27,000 to put on a conference, and we're not looking at having large fundraisers like from How I Met Your Mother, what will that take away from the research, and how much do we need to take that into consideration too? And as a devil's advocate, because I want to be here every other year, but I also want to see...
No, well, the money for the conference in terms of the research is one of the best investments possible. I mean, let me just give you a little announcement that I was going to make later on today, which I'll say now and I'll say it again later, but I continued in my coercion efforts with Dr. Chugani late in the afternoon yesterday, and bottom line is she is now fully committed to work with me to launch a pilot clinical trial for your children. Which kind of gives me goosebumps just thinking about it, because to my knowledge there's never been a study anywhere to test a pharmacotherapy to improve cognitive function. And so it's a whole other challenge, because we need to raise $150,000 to fund that study for a relatively small number of your children, which we'll talk about in the next session in 2 minutes. But I mean, if that isn't a profound example among 100 others from the research standpoint of why this conference is so important to foster the research. So it is a no-brainer in my mind in terms of the research, and I appreciate you bringing up the point.
That's
anyone else picked up. Dr. Paris said we. He said our, we. So he's now invested.
He's part of this family. Yeah, totally.
You have impressed him.
Well, Ken was amazing because, I mean, it didn't take any coercion. You know, Diane is a little...
She was different.
But actually, it was a really beautiful thing to watch what sort of transpired with her over the 2 days that she was here, because she, I get the impression, kind of keeps her cards to herself, but she really opened up, and, you know, she actually spent an hour last night sitting on the couch having a glass of wine with my mother-in-law. So I think she really warmed up to the whole concept of this, to the point, you know, and that's a tribute to what another aspect of what these conferences do from the research standpoint. It makes it personal. She sees the faces behind, and remember, she's a PhD too, and so they don't get much opportunity to experience the direct clinical implication of what they're doing. And so I think it's a slam dunk, the $27,000 whatever investment.
We have Marie from Australia, who says, we appreciate the live stream so much. It's 2 a.m. here at the moment. So the time zone has a lot to do for us. But she does say, without these conferences, including the one we attended in 2008 and the live stream, Dylan would not be here today. So we cannot thank you enough for all the work that everyone puts into this. You guys are awesome.
Well, I think that pretty much speaks to why we need to have the conference. So we will do it in some way or another.
Yeah.
I think every 2 years. I think that question has been answered. I don't have any idea how right now, but we'll figure it out. We'll continue to do it. If I don't go rupturing any more Achilles tendons next time. So. Nigel, did you have something you wanted to comment on? You were raising your hand. Oh, okay. And then
if we did go to spacing out more,
I just said we're going to do it every day.
But even though doing that, you know, we always have, it seems like 40, I mean, it's always been, we were talking about this last night, but there's always seems to be like between 30 and 40 families. Are there other ways, as far as the research goes, to have those families that don't come still be able to participate in the research? I know some of it obviously is clinical. It's great to have the facilities here to be able to do some of the cognitive and all that, but it's like some of the blood work and stuff like that. Is there another way to approach these families and get that information to you guys?
Complicated answer. It depends. So, for example, as a follow-up to the talks on immunodeficiency, so I think if we can, with hopefully the help of a protocol, have everyone get a formal systematic immune system evaluation, that's a great example of how things can be done locally and get funneled back to us, you know, centrally. But I'll tell you, the only way that works is the onus is on all of you to make that happen, because it's just a logistic impossibility for me to try to coordinate and arrange. Impossible. I've tried actually, but it's impossible. Same for blood work. Things like the skin biopsy, as a specific example, has to be done here on site, because you can't let a sample sit in a test tube and be shipped by FedEx over a day or two. So for the cognitive stuff, they have sent questionnaires out to all of the group, and then, so I mean, some of that is doable. It just kind of depends upon the individual research question that's being asked.
And Dr. Latina had also said that we could send more samples to her as well.
Yeah, we should move on. Let's take
Can I just cover a few things real quick? Because we have a few more business meeting things that I really want to get to really quick.
Sorry.
We've determined we're doing it every 2 years. We'll do it. All right. So some of these things I'm just going to skip over because we kind of cover them as ways to try and get people to the conference more. And a big thing's going to be fundraising, just to try and make sure we're funding the conference, but to help with finances, to help offer more scholarships so more families can come. That's going to be a big thing. One thing that I did want to talk about, though, is implementing new regional representatives. So this is a thought that we had about having, dividing the United States up and then even having representatives in Europe. We have someone from South Africa who said they would be the South African representative. And I posted this on Facebook so people could chime in ahead of time if they were interested. But the idea of a regional representative would be, we divide the states or the country, wherever, into different regions, and we have one representative for each region. And their job would be to become familiar. You know, you may have like a group of 5 or 6 states. And so if you're the regional representative, you become familiar with the 11Q families in your states. Then try and create a list of doctor recommendations from those families. So we have recommendations of doctors and therapists for each major city. And then also becoming familiar with some of the services that are offered in the states, each of the states or countries, so that and you don't necessarily need to be the expert on all of them for all the states that you represent, but at least know of a contact in that state that you could refer people to. You could organize regional picnics, get-togethers like we talked about, and even organize regional fundraisers. And then basically you would be the point person for your region. So if we have a new family come on Facebook and say, hey, is there anyone in my area? You can say, hey, you know what, here's the person to contact. They can get you lined up with other people that might live near you. They can help you with doctors, and then also try and arrange maybe more regional type get-togethers. So I have from Facebook, we actually had a few people volunteer for the Northeast, but my thought is if we have one representative, so that we're only giving these people one email address, so that they're not like, here's 6 email addresses to try and contact, but if there's one email address for each region, they can certainly have people helping them collect this information and form kind of a registry for that area that we can then put together as a bigger registry for the whole group. But Jennifer Burgee, she was supposed to be here but was not able to come, but she wanted to she volunteered to be the regional rep for the Northeast. And then we had, and I also put out there, we do need some people to be on fundraising committee, and we're happy to take people on conference planning committee also. So kind of be thinking about if there's something that you would like to do, and let me know. Because in the interest of time, let's not, come see me and we'll get that all lined up, but I would like to have, essentially, to get more people involved, a regional representative for each region. We need some people on a fundraising committee, and as I posted online, the fundraising committee may be as simple as helping to write thank you notes. After a fundraiser or something like that. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to go knocking on people's doors per se. Maybe you will, maybe, but we definitely need some help with fundraising committee and conference planning committee. If you are interested in helping with that, then those are the main things that we're looking for help with. Oh, and the other thing there was one other, an awareness, like an 11Q awareness chairperson to try and help. Maybe send pamphlets out to genetics clinics just to try and get us a little bit more face recognition, so the people have heard of 11Q and heard of Jacobson syndrome. And so we don't have a chairperson for that, and so that would be someone to actually be on the board to be that, but then also maybe possibly a committee to help that person. So keep those in mind and come talk to me later if you are interested in serving in any of those positions.
I think the newsletter is something that should...
Oh, yes, and I do have that on here. Krista Walsworth has done an amazing job with the newsletter. We've never had a newsletter quite so fantastic. And it has really, I think when we have the newsletter going out, it kind of brings us together and helps us stay functioning as an organization.
And just along those lines, I think the natural tendency is after the build-up of the conference, things tend to kind of fizzle a little bit, and I think, like we talked about at the Europe meeting. The newsletter really helps to keep people engaged and helps to sustain that momentum in between conferences. And again, Krista has done an extraordinary job. And so you can never have enough input and help to make that to keep the newsletter going. So I think of that as a huge element of this group. So.
I just want to say that Marie says she's happy to be the Australian representative.
All right, we'll take it.
And there's a number of families in Australia.
There are.
Must be 8 to 10 families
They've
at
actually
least.
formed an organization there too.
They were going to have their own.
The last thing I just wanted to say is that I think everyone gets really psyched at the conference, like, yeah, I'm going to help, and then it kind of like fizzles a little bit. And I think it's really easy to kind of say, I've got so much going on, I've got a job, I've got a kid at 11Q, I've got this. You know, I just want to remind everyone, Lindsay's got 4 kids. 4. And 2 of them have 11Q, and Curtis travels all the time.
Got 5 kids.
Yeah. So Lindsay manages to like pull all this together, and you know, her children, her family's suffering because she does.
But we all know, wait a minute, Lindsay is superhuman.
I don't think she sleeps actually. But you know, so pull it together, like pull it from somewhere deep. If there's anything you can do, if you have any special talent, anything, you know, I know. Like I said, I was embarrassed to accept a gift yesterday because this is my group. Like, I was doing this for my family. You know, I happen to be a behaviorist, and like I said, the irony is not lost on me that my child is one of the most behavioral here. But that's something I can do for the group to help other families, and I'm happy to do it. And if anyone has any special talent or skill or anything that can be applied, I don't like being on camera and getting my worst angle too. But anyway, you know, just think deeply, like how can you help? If you don't feel like you can plan the conference, what can you do? Maybe you're a photographer and you can take family pictures at the picnic. Maybe, you know, there could be anything.
Absolutely.
Like anything you can think of that you are good at. If you're, you know, really good at fundraising, well, we need you. Obviously, we want Dr. Chudani's research to be directly applied to our kids. What can you do to help? If you come up, if you're creative and you can think of fundraisers but you can't implement them, well, put the idea out there. Maybe someone else can implement it. We need to all pull together to make this happen. And it can't be like a 2-person effort. It has to be everybody. So that's.
JFK quote, don't think what you can do for your group.
11Q.
Yes. Don't ask what
11Q can do for you.
Don't think what you can do for your group, what can, you know what I mean?
Don't ask what you can do for you. Ask what you can do for your
I put that in the last European newsletter.
Do you know who JFK was?
The enthusiasm that's exuded here needs to be carried forward to that word used before, deliverability. So, you know, if you're here and you're enthusiastic, sign up for something, because that's what's really needed. Enthusiasm is great, but it's practically useless if it doesn't deliver something. That might be harsh, but that's so true.
So Nigel, are you going to be the regional representative for England?
Actually, I already have one. You can help.
I prefer the German word. I'm the Schatzmeister of the European 11Q financial.
We had someone online, Tracy Yao. Tracy?
Yeah.
Yao, I think Y-A-U. She has volunteered to be, she's very active on the Facebook. She's volunteered to be a contact for UK.
So
Fundraising?
we should probably wrap things up, take about a 2-minute break, and then
Yeah,
we'll move
quickly
right
come
into
back.